All right, everyone. So I want to do a history on the Knights Templars. I was actually thinking of trying to do this as one of my 2-minute videos, but I'm like, nah, I can't make it that short. So I'll still keep it brief here, but I'm going to drop some links in the description. So if you want to learn a little bit more. So who are the Knights Templars? A lot of people have heard about them from things like games like Assassin's Creed. I remember playing that years ago, thinking, how many towers can you climb? But they've also have this history and this a bit of mythology. So what's the deal with them, right? What's the story? What's the history? What's the mythology? So the origins, of course, goes back to the story of the Crusades. The Crusades, I'm not going to get into all the details of the Crusades here, of course, but the First Crusade, 1096, 1099, where the Western powers want to retake this land that would have been put under Islamic control by then, and put it under Christian authority again, right? And again, at this point, when I say Christian, we're talking about the Catholic Church. This predates the Protestant Reformation, and so forth. So, anyways, so what ends up happening is you get the Crusades, and the First Crusade, which ends in 1099, manages to begin to take over some of the region here. You could see in what we would call the Holy Land, especially, of course, cities like Jerusalem, and then another city up here you could see called Akko, and so forth. As the Crusaders managed to take stronger holds, Crusader kingdoms in the east, as it says on this map, what ends up happening is that there are people who want to do pilgrimages now, right? People who want to go from the west, do pilgrimages to the Holy Land, but there needed to be some sort of protection. And from this, you get the story of the Knights Templars. The Knights Templars were essentially created to protect the people, the Christian pilgrims coming to the east, right, from the west to the east. And so initially they were very small. A man named Count Udupon is one of the key people who helped start and organize this group of knights. And as I said, they were there to protect Christian pilgrimages. Shortly after their initial creation in the early 1100s, they were also endorsed by the Pope, Pope Innocent II. And this made them start to become very strong, very wealthy. They have strongholds all over Western Europe. You could still see today. Obviously, this is a couple images from a city called Akko that I was at. And you can see a Knights Templars Hall. You can see an image on the bottom of kind of what it looks like from the outside. And again, there's tons of images of Akko is like one of the best places, by the way, to go and see things of the Knights Templars. A lot of people think you go Jerusalem, and there's stuff all over the place in the Middle East and in Western Europe that relates to the Knights Templars, but this one city is really amazing, and I have something really cool to show you at the end of this video as well that they very recently discovered in the city of Akko. Really amazing history there. But anyways, so they're there, they establish themselves, they're very strong, and they start to become very wealthy. And this is where things get interesting. As they become wealthy and strong, not everybody is happy, right? And as we get to about the 1300s, there was a king of France at the time named Philip IV. Philip IV was, and others were not happy that the Knights Templars were becoming so wealthy and so powerful and so influential. And so there started to be these accusations floating about them. Accusations that the Knights Templars were in fact this secret society of demon worshippers, that, they had these secret rituals. They would, worship a demon, and they would spit on the cross and urinate on the cross, all these kind of crazy stories. Well, people started to believe these stories. And as people started to believe these stories, they were eventually rounded up. When they were rounded up and arrested, well, the order was on Friday the 13th, October 1307. And so people wonder, is this where we get Friday the 13th? And I've actually looked into this a bit. Apparently, it's not just from this. This may have kind of helped the story of Friday the 13th as being an unlucky day. But anyways, this is where they were rounded up. And then they were tortured. They were tortured in all sorts of horrific ways. I remember reading one book about how when they were tortured, they would be hung by a string from their arms, and then people would put like animal fat on their feet and then light a fire below, so just their feet catch on fire, and torturing them in that manner until they started to confess to all the things they were accused of. And that's when they were, of course, a lot of them were captured and killed. And eventually the order was disbanded. But did they all die? And what you're looking at in this image is actually an escape tunnel that was discovered in the city of Akko not that long ago. In the same scheme of things, I think it was like 30, 40 years ago it was discovered, roughly. I'd have to find the exact date of when they were discovered, but I've walked through this. It's kind of cool. And what it does is it takes you from the city of Akko all the way out to the ports. And if you go like on I have a video, I don't want to spend a lot of time on a video on this, but it would take you out if you walk through it, and it escapes you out to ports. So maybe the idea is that some of them survived, and this is where we get the mythology that they survived, they became those who hold the secret, the secrets to the Holy Grail. If you ever saw the Da Vinci Code or read the book and things like that. So this is where a lot of mythology comes in. But the terms of the history, they're pretty interesting. Again, I'm going to drop some links in the descriptions if you want to learn a bit more. There's a lot more, but I know some people like these videos kind of short. So just gave you a little bit of overview, and I'll drop some links there. Hope you found that interesting. A lot of cool stuff to learn about the Knights Templars. All right, everyone have a great day. Thank you.